Welcome back to the NORML Conference 2017. Welcome, everybody. We've got Abby Sampson up at the stage. She's going to ask questions to Britney Guerra of the CC5. Abby is, of course, the NORML Regional Director of Ontario. And I'll throw it away to them.
Hello. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hey. What's up? I'm a lot more relaxed now that I don't really have to moderate that panel, so I feel a lot better. So up here with me, I have Britney Guerra. She's so her panel actually is on cannabis entrepreneurship, because I'm not too sure if you guys know, Britney has done pretty much everything in this industry. You know, she's she's part of the CC5, which she'll tell you more about. Right now, she's also got a little shop in Hamilton, which is dubbed like the new, what do they call it? Like the new Williamsburg or something. Hamilton is super chic now, and she's got a wonderful like cannabis jewelry shop in Hamilton. So she'll tell you about all of her experience. And of course, I'm going to ask her some of the same questions that I did at the women's panel, because I mean, here we have another, woman, female expert here. So, we can all learn from her experience. So, Britney, this is actually, I think, our first time meeting. So, tell me about yourself.
So, my name's Britney Guerra. Can you hear? Test, test. Okay. So, my name's Britney Guerra. I started in the cannabis industry 10 years ago as the advertising manager of Cannabis Culture magazine. At that point in time, it was after the seed raids of Mark Emery, so we were just an online magazine and a bong shop and a vapor lounge, and it was my introduction into the industry. And I have to say, it was so much fun sitting in my little office. I had to do sales, so I was hounding people, but it was the coolest place to sit and hound people from. And, I was bugging other stoners, so we kind of got on the same level. And I'm like, look, I know that nobody likes telemarketers calling at them, but I'm a cool weed one, so listen to what I have to say. So it was an amazing step into the industry. I loved it so much. I worked there for almost 6 years. They gave me everything I have, so I've always been forever indebted to that company. And then in 2011, I decided to split with Cannabis Culture because I was starting to get more ingrained into the dispensary side of things. Dana Larson has been a huge mentor of mine for a long time, and I was watching what was going on with his dispensary in Vancouver. So I decided to start looking for one in the area. Unfortunately, I found one in Burnaby and opened the Metrotown Medicinal Society that later succumbed to the RCMP 3 months later. Kind of my own fault picking RCMP territory, but it was such a great location. So that was my first step into the dispensary industry, and I got a conditional discharge on that. So bravo to Tusaw Law for freeing me from the hands of the law for a little bit at least. So 2012, I moved home, and merely for a guy actually, and we're married now, so that was I was really happy about that, because it was very, very hard to leave Vancouver and all of my friends, my Canna family. I knew some people in the Toronto scene, but it wasn't as familiar to me as Vancouver. So I moved home, and I kind of just sat around in Hamilton for about a year and a half, and I sat and I waited to see if some sort of weed scene would come in to play, knowing that Toronto was starting to boom. And a vapor lounge opened, and then one dispensary opened, and I was like, okay, I'm going to come back out now. So I decided to open Cloud9 Head Shop and Vapor Lounge in 2015. And there's a long story with that, but then I continued on to open the Medicine Cabinet Hamilton, which was my step back into the dispensary scene, and then was later approached by Cannabis Culture to open Cannabis Culture Hamilton. And being a part of the CC5, we all know how well that went. But then from there, my conditions took me away from the dispensaries because I wasn't allowed to be in them. And unfortunately, Cloud9 Hamilton is above the former Cannabis Culture, and there's no separate entrance, so I wasn't allowed to go to my own business either. So that led me to Canna Gems, which is a cannabis jewelry store that I opened that's conveniently 5 doors down from the former Cloud9. I kind of, the BIA, I've been a thorn in her side since day one in that area, so I just had to open up a few doors down. And Cannagems is a beautiful cannabis jewelry. We have our own custom line that I'm not wearing right now, unfortunately, incredibly unprepared. We also carry 20 different glass blowers from all over North America, strictly pendants only, which is a really cool play on the industry. Like, nobody's really stuck to the jewelry side of things altogether. So that's where I am right now at Cannagems, still owner of Cloud9 Hamilton. Unfortunately, it was shut down temporarily because of an injunction by the city of Hamilton, because when Cannabis Culture closed, it turned into another dispensary once I stepped away from it. And they were selling rec with Cannabis Culture, so the dispensary continued selling recreational after, and the city of Hamilton decided to try and get us with an injunction 3 weeks before yesterday. So when this new law came into play, they kind of jumped the gun a little bit, because if they had waited it out, they would have shut us all down. But the dispensary won the injunction, so the dispensary is legally allowed to sell to medicinal patients right now, while the Vapor Lounge lost the injunction due to zoning. They're saying it's residential. Yeah. Meanwhile, it only has 2 bathrooms in one big room, no kitchen, no anything. So how it's claimed residential is just something. So I applied for zoning, and that's where I stand with everything right now.
There you go. No, that's awesome. So Britney, what inspired you to get involved with cannabis?
I fell into it. I always loved cannabis. That's 90% of the reason why I moved to Vancouver. One of my friends lived there and then moved home for the summer, and he brought with him this BC Kush that, when you grinded it up, it moved. It was alive. It was the most beautiful thing. I know most of you know what I was talking about, but I was just so blown away by this. And I had I worked at McDonald's for 6 years, and I was currently at the Keg, and I was just drifting through life and wasn't really the happiest. So my friend moved back to BC, and then a couple more went with him, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. So I moved with $300 in my suitcase, and fortunately I transferred to the Keg in Vancouver, which was really lucky. But one day I was walking downtown, and there was a Mark Emery extradition rally going on, and me and my friends were all smoking pot all the time, so we smelt it in the air. We're like, hey, what's going on over there? That smells pretty good. So we went over, and that's the first time I ever saw Mark Emery, and it was him saying goodbye, I'll see you in 5 years or whatever. And I was just listening to what him and Jody said, and it was at Victory Square, which if any of you have been to Cannabis Culture in Vancouver, it's right across the street. It's a little war memorial area. So they hold a lot of rallies there. And I just kept looking over at Sorry, it wasn't at Victory Square. It was at the Art Gallery. So I just kept looking over at Cannabis Culture, and I'm like, that place would be awesome to work at. I would love to work there. And I walked away from that rally just listening to everything that the Emery said, and Mark going away for seeds. And I'm watching Narcos right now. The fact that the DEA went after Mark Emery for seeds, and they're going after Pablo Escobar and all these people, just blows my mind after learning all this stuff about what happened in the past. Anyways, back to the story. So he was talking about, going away, and I walked away from that, and I said, I'm going to work for Cannabis Culture. That's going to be my job. I'm going to go there, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to work for them. And then 2 days after the extradition rally, the Canadians took Mark into jail in Port Coquitlam. And Jody, I followed them both on Facebook, and Jody posted on Facebook, I need help, I need an assistant. Mark's writing letters, and if anybody here knows Mark, he has a lot to say. So these letters are 10 pages long of handwritten letters, and she needed them transcribed to be put on cannabisculture.com. So her status was about there's so many letters, I can't transcribe them all in time, I'm getting overwhelmed. And I was sitting at home, and I just it was like a kick in my stomach. It's go Britney, this is you, you need to do this. So I slammed my computer shut, and I ran to the SkyTrain. It's like the subway, but above ground. And I just ran as fast as I could, and I got on that train, and I was downtown in 14 minutes. And I ran into Cannabis Culture, and I stood in front of her, and I said, my name's Britney, and I'm your assistant. I'm the one who you're looking for. And she's like, well, that's interesting. She's like, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I went on to just say, I love cannabis, and I didn't really have Not that, I love my job and I had a great time there, but I didn't have anything for the cannabis industry. I had nothing to input. Like, I love weed. That's what I said. I need to be here. So she's like, okay, have a seat, pull up to the computer. Let's see how fast you can transcribe letters. And I'm like, okay, cool. I have a great typing average. I'll do fantastic on this. So typing away. 6 hours later, the phone rings. And I had only seen Mark the one time at this extradition rally. And you can tell on the phone it was him. And he's like, hi, boo, Jody, how's it going? Mark on the other end. I couldn't hear him, but I'll tell you what he said. He said, hello, Jody. Amanda's here. I've hired her as your assistant. She came to visit, and that's it. And Jody's like, well, Mark, I just hired somebody. She's right here beside me. Like, what do I do? Mark's like, sorry, you're going to have to let her go. Like, Mandy was in the industry through a few people. She was already known. So Jody hung up the phone, and she's like, Britney, I'm so sorry. Like, you can't work here. Mark hired somebody else. And because they were in jail, it was a separate, like, he wasn't near her, and Mandy went to visit, so he didn't get to talk to her before. And so it was like I won the lottery, and it got snatched from me. It was like you had that winning ticket in your hand, you checked your numbers, and some little leprechaun came and stole the ticket out of your hand and disappeared. Like, that train ride home was the saddest day of my life, for sure. And after that, every day for 2 weeks, I would get up and I went downtown and I would smoke a joint at Cannabis Culture, and I would say, hi, Jody, hi, Jeremiah, how are you guys? Like, is there anything I can do for you? Would you like a coffee? Like, just to be friends with these people, because it was just such a cool place. And I left my family in Ontario, so just to be there gave me a sense of home and family, right? So, 2.5 weeks of getting coffee and smoking joints and making friends. Jody called me one day and she said, Britney, we need an advertising manager, and I feel like you're the perfect person for the job because you sold yourself to us, and we love you, and we would love to have you. And it was $100 a week salary. The rest was based on commission, and I killed it. Like, it was so much fun. I learned how to talk to people. I became more personable. Not like I've always been a very personable person, but it was an incredible experience. And that was my step in. Like, it was literally a lucky draw, like 1 in a million.
Oh, that's awesome. And it sounds like it really kind of echoes the same journey that the other women on our panel earlier were saying. It's just kind of grit and just showing up and doing it and kind of making friends.
Yeah.
Making friends.
Getting in people's faces.
Okay. So what are some of the biggest challenges working in this industry?
I think, like the other girls mentioned, the law is definitely number one challenge. It's always good to be at a place where you're on the right side of the law. So Cannagems has been interesting for me because it's the first business that I have owned that doesn't not only break any city bylaws, but no, criminal law at all. So it's my perfect little legal shop, and I love being there, but I never had more fun than I did at the dispensary. So legally is the biggest challenge, definitely.
So women in the cannabis industry, not unlike other industries, face the double whammy of ageism and sexism, and the combination can feel daunting. How do these kind of expectations shape or affect your experiences working in the cannabis industry? And how do you push back or resist this?
The ageism thing, maybe I got a little bit because I'm still a very young face. I'm only 29 years old, and I've been in the industry for 10 years. So definitely when I was, 19, 21, 22, I would be traveling internationally with Jeremiah Vandermeer, and, I don't know, like, if many of you know him, but he's a hilariously fun young man. So when we traveled, it was just like people almost didn't take us seriously because of our age. But now, I'm a known face. I've never had an issue with sexism. I've been very, very, very fortunate. Maybe it's because I'm like more one of the guys than I am a girl, but I've been really lucky in that. The ageism definitely has affected me, but what can you do? People are judging me because I'm a young woman and I have experience in an industry. You should be praising and be proud. It should be an uplifting thing. Like, I know a lot of girls who work, for example, at Cloud9 or at Canagems or even in the dispensaries that are just so uplifting and proud that I've been here for 10 years. And they're like, I can't wait. Like, if I could be your age and do all this stuff, it'll be incredible, you know? So, yeah.
No, for sure. So, Brittany, in male-dominated work environments, do you feel that women need to work harder in order to be heard, respected, and validated?
See, that's interesting because that can come into like sexism a little bit where I don't think that I have to work harder, you know? I think that people's work and effort speaks for itself. I've never experienced having to stand beside a man and feel like I have to double up and level up my work ethic because it's always been really good and really strong, and I want to succeed and I want my staff to succeed. So I've never experienced that, and super fortunate. And I've always just worked at the same level. And if, you know, okay, if Bill Gates, for example, was standing beside me and like is a billion-dollar empire or however many billions and is the hardest worker ever, I might be like, okay, maybe I need to like not, you know, get places 5 minutes earlier, be on time. That's my biggest issue.
So, I mean, again, it sounds like you've had some really good experiences in the cannabis industry with having like really supportive male, you know, colleagues and allies around you. But, you know, same question as I asked the other panel. How can male colleagues be stronger allies and help to improve work environments to make them more inclusive?
You know, again, a hard question. Like any males that I have been around have done nothing but uplift me and support me and, you know, help me in any way. I don't think that they could improve in assisting me in any way. They've all been so good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess your message to our other male colleagues in this industry who may not be as supportive would be just to be, hey, supportive.
You know, we're in year 2017 at this point. I think that if anybody is unsupportive of women at this point in time, they just need to like leave the room. That's my opinion, because we're here, and in America, it's a mostly dominated women industry, and women run some of the best cannabis businesses in our scene. So anybody who does that, just like, don't even talk to me.
So how can we build an inclusive cannabis industry for people of color, Indigenous people, and the LGBTQ communities, as well as women?
Hire them. Hire everybody. Never discriminate against any person, ever. All of my businesses have had a very diverse employee, I don't know, ratio? I don't know what you say. It's always been very diverse. We've had people of every color. Like, why discriminate against color? Again, we're in 2017. So my best advice to make it an inclusive industry is hire them and base them on their performance and their work ethic. Don't ever judge anybody because their color or their sexual preference or like anything, any imperfection, or, you know, never judge a book by its cover or its interior. People are people, and everybody has hearts, and there's no reason to ever discriminate. So you want it to be inclusive, you get everybody in there. Never judge a book by its cover, and hire anybody you can.
So what advice would you give to women who are trying to begin their cannabis careers? You know, all those women who you're meeting now, and they're like, oh, I can't believe that you're doing all this stuff and you're only 29. So what kind of advice do you have to give them?
Well, for one, be patient, because it doesn't happen overnight. I had to work at Cannabis Culture for a long time and earn my stripes, you know, because a job like that, you have to remember, I feel like any job in the cannabis industry, there is somebody at your heels. Like, every door that you walk through, there's somebody right behind you waiting for your job. So no matter what you do, you have to kill it, because you won't survive. Only the strong survive. So, yeah.
Keep going at it.
Oh.
And be patient.
Yeah, keep going, be patient, don't give up, and just know that there's somebody behind you that wants your job.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So the last question I ended the other panel on, kind of what advice would you give to women in this industry who are already here and who might have been disappointed by the news yesterday, or who are experiencing barriers or?
I have a couple staff that were very, very disappointed by the news yesterday. And the hardest thing I find about my current position is having the weight of all of my staff on my shoulders. And I feel like I can never be the one that gets upset. Like people, if I need to have a mental breakdown, it happens behind closed doors. I can't do it in front of all the people around me because, like, I'm not saying I'm their leader, but they look to me for moral support and answers to these difficult things. And when I started my career, we were in like the ominous crime bill Stephen Harper days. So times were a lot darker back then. Mark was extradited for 5 years for seeds. Like the thing about this industry is it's never the same. It's the most evolving industry of any other industry that I've ever been in. The amount, for example, when Cannabis Culture Hamilton was open, the amount of change we had from 1 week to the next in structure, in stability, like you never know what's going on around the corner. It's like one of those books that you read where it's like, if you want to turn left, turn to page 72. If you want to go right, turn to page 47. You don't know. Keep fighting. Like to live in a time, okay, I don't support the government stores at all. To live in a time where your child, say your kid's 17 years old and gets caught with a dime bag or whatever they want to call their illegal pot, they get a ticket. It's like when I was a teenager, I got an underage drinking ticket. I signed the ticket. I didn't tell my mom. I paid it. Have a good day. I had a criminal record when I was 17 years old because of an ounce of marijuana. These kids are like, we're saving them. What we've done has saved them. Yes, it's flawed. Yes, it needs to change, but everything changes with time. I understand the LCBO, it took forever for us to get liquor into grocery stores, but there's liquor in grocery stores now. So, and also it can change every 4 years with an election or every 2 years with a provincial election. Nothing is permanent. It could be illegal in 4 years and we'd have to start all over again from the same battlegrounds that we were at. So put on a brave face. Don't be afraid of what's coming. Like I told one of my staff members yesterday who was really bummed out, I'm like, first of all, we're very fortunate to even have done what we've done for the last few years. Like Cannabis Culture Hamilton, I have no regrets. Like it was probably the best time of my life. I'll say that for sure. Like so far. And I didn't know I kind of knew what was going to happen, right? You can't say you didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't worry about it. If you put yourself in that position, be brave because everybody's looking at you and everybody's watching. And now with the former Cannabis Culture is now Hamilton Village Dispensary. And as I said, they won the injunction against the city of Hamilton, an interim injunction. So what happened was the city went to court on the 22nd of August. And they wanted us to close that day. So the head of licensing was there. And I had emailed this guy probably 15 times. Hey, can we meet? I'd love to talk to you about dispensaries. And he completely skirted me. Marijuana dispensaries are illegal. We will not license. No, I will not give you a meeting. And then the first time I see him is at our injunction. Like, hello, Ken. So nice to meet you finally. Trying to shut me down. But, he did shut Cloud9 down. They got that. But the fact that a once recreational store that was a target to, at that time, the biggest cross-country dispensary raids in history, everybody thought it was over. That's it. I was sitting in that cell and I was like, well, that was fun. That was one for the books. What a great story I have to tell. And lo and behold, the store was open while I was in the cell, changing the names, pulling the signs down, following every condition that I had to adhere to. And here we are 6 months later, and that may be the only legal dispensary in all of Ontario. And could you ever predicted that to happen? There's been so many days that could have possibly been doomsdays, and it keeps going. So don't be afraid.
Awesome. Wow. Brittany, thank you so much. It seems like through your experiences, the key message is be fucking resilient. Be there.
Yeah.
Keep showing up.
Shine, guys. Like,
Yeah.
everybody goes through stuff. Like, you can have all of the money in the world. You can have everything you could possibly ever want, but you still get upset. So no matter what, just remember that there are people in this world going through worse than you. If you're in my situation, you put yourself in that situation. So you can't, like, it'll be all good. Like, I'm so confident in our industry, and I'm so confident where everything goes. Yeah.
When are you guys going to release some of the transcripts of what's going on in court?
Well, right now there's a publication ban, so it's nothing interesting at all. Like, it's so boring. And whether I can speak on this or not, I don't really care. But like, their case is shit. So they base most of their case off of social media. So that's what they got. So, yeah. Does anybody else have questions? No? Cool.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Brittany.
No
Everyone.
worries.
Britney Guerra.
Yeah, well, I